Your Jacksonville Jaguars have taken down the Las Vegas Raiders in a Week 9 matchup between two teams that were previously 0-10 on the season in one-score games. Something had to give, and it did in Jacksonville at TIAA Bank Field on Sunday afternoon for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan Lugo. Thank you so much for being here after a big Jaguars Week 9 win. Look, Jaguars are still down in the standings, but you don't need to worry about that right now. We're going to talk about what happened in this game, some instant analysis, and we're just going to have a good time here. A Sunday afternoon where Jaguars fans can sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of the weekend slate, and bask in what was a well-earned victory, right? I think that you start this game down 17-0. The Raiders came out storming. The Jaguars didn't have an answer. Then the Jags go on a 27-3 run to close out the game and send the Raiders back to Las Vegas with the Fat L. The Jaguars are now 3-6. The Raiders are now 2-6 on the season. They've already had their bye week. So just a really big win for a Jaguars team that, look, they had lost 5 straight games. They did not need to lose 6 straight before traveling to Kansas City and then hosting the Ravens. There's a bye week in between those two contests. But, look, this was a much-needed victory. Not just for, trying to compete for the playoffs, with the Jaguars are way out of that. You don't even need to think about the playoffs at this point. You just need to think about this team being able to come together. It's a young football team. They're trying to get moving in the right direction with a new head coach, a young quarterback, a lot of young and new pieces, and they got a well-earned victory today, in my opinion. Looking at this game, again, the Jaguars came back from 17 down. Talk about the Cardiac Cats going on that 27-3 run. And it was close there at the end, but the Jaguars closed it out. Devin Lloyd picked off that lateral. I guess you would call that a fumble recovery, but picked off the lateral there at the end. It was a backward pass and sealed the deal for the Jaguars there. But the Jags did not make the losing mistakes that the Raiders did, right? You saw Davante Adams came out scorched earth against the Jaguars in this game. Derek Carr was playing great. They were really feeling it, but late in the game, second half comes around, Davante Adams starts dropping some passes, Derek Carr starts missing a couple, and their connection was broken. And they weren't able to get the job done in the second half after lighting Tyson Campbell. Whoever was covering Davante Adams was getting lit up in the first half, and then Davante just falls apart. So does Derek Carr. It's what you've kind of expected to see from the Jaguars. But look, the Raiders were another team that was coming off a 24-0 defeat in New Orleans. They were also 0-4 on the season when it came to one-score games. So it's not like the Jaguars were playing this team that really knew how to win games themselves, right? They've been struggling just as much as the Jaguars have. And the Raiders made those critical mistakes that the Jaguars didn't. Getting into my thoughts on this game, kind of instant analysis recap type stuff other than what happened at the end. You saw Dawon Smoot, right? He had a big early sack. He got a sack later in the game too. Him rushing from that interior spot has been money the last couple weeks, and it's been much needed because the Jaguars have been struggling to generate consistent pass rush. You've got Josh Allen being chipped a lot, being double teamed. You've got Trayvon Walker still trying to find it. So Dawon Smoot stepping up the last couple weeks has been huge for the Jaguars. And he got, again, a big sack early in this one and then a big sack late in the game as well. The early sack, you kind of had exterior pressure coming in on Derek Carr, forced him to move up in the pocket, moving towards the line of scrimmage, and Dawon Smoot was able to clean it up. On the last one, he was able to clean up there too. Big game for Dawon Smoot. Big couple performances for him. I mentioned Devin Lloyd got that big play to end it. I guess you would call that a fumble recovery on the backwards lateral. Took that away and gave the Jaguars the win. Looking at what Trevor Lawrence did, Jaguars quarterback, again, someone who has come under quite a bit of scrutiny, quite a bit of criticism over the last couple months in Jacksonville and nationally. And I thought he had a fantastic game for the Jaguars. Started out a little shaky, right? Had that rough-looking pitch to Jermichael Hasty on third down, and then he missed Evan Ingram on another third down shortly thereafter that. But following those two mistakes, Trevor turned it on in a big way. He finished this game 25 of 31 passing. Incredible efficiency for Trevor, 235 yards through the air, a touchdown to Christian Kirk, who has been the Jaguars' leading touchdown getter with 5 touchdown receptions so far in 2022. Big free agent signing who, while he hasn't been consistent week in and week out, no one on this team really has been consistent week in and week out outside of maybe a couple players like a Tyson Campbell. But the connection was on today with Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk. Kirk caught 8 balls for 76 yards and that touchdown in the second half. Big performances from Trevor and from Christian. I thought after those early mistakes that Trevor had, he settled in, which that was really encouraging because talking about Trevor Lawrence, he's a guy that when the mistakes start to happen, sometimes they snowball. He was able to course correct in this game and get himself going in the right direction in a big way. And I thought he was one of the stabilizing forces of this game for the Jaguars. I thought Travis Etienne was that as well. Travis Etienne had 28 carries for 109 yards. It was his first game as the feature runner where it wasn't really all going correctly all the time. He only averaged 3.9 yards per carry. But the Jaguars stuck with him. They stuck with the run. They had a balanced game plan. I really appreciate that from Doug Peterson. I think he took a step, Doug Peterson did, in terms of coaching to his talent, coaching to his personnel. I think there's been a couple times this year where you look at what Doug has done from a decision-making standpoint, from a play-calling standpoint, and I think it's cost the Jaguars in certain situations, not running the ball as much, being a little bit too aggressive on some of these fourth down calls. He didn't do that today. I think Doug called a really good game. And when you talk about a team that found a way to win, found a way not to lose, now Doug can look at this game and be like, look, I did go for some field goals late in the game. I went for a field goal that would have put me up 7. Riley Patterson missed it. But it was the right decision. It was a poor result, but it was the right decision. And proof of concept was the very next series, Riley Patterson has another opportunity to hit a field goal to put the Jaguars up 7, and he did make it and put the Jaguars up 7, so you have a 1-score lead. The Raiders, they have the pressure on them. They have to go score a touchdown to get even. They weren't able to do it. The Jaguars defense really tightened up late in this game. So you had Trevor Lawrence playing fairly well most of this game, being really accurate with the football for the most part, moving the ball well. Travis Etienne running well. Neither of those young players had any turnovers, right? You talk about that. Travis Etienne getting the 2 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence throwing a touchdown pass. Travis didn't fumble the ball. Trevor didn't throw any interceptions. So really good to see from those 2 former Clemson Tigers, first-round picks for the Jaguars in 2021, kind of being the catalysts for victory in this game. And I think the rest of the Jaguars receiving core, too, when you look beyond Christian Kirk, you had Marvin Jones playing a good game. He caught 5 of 6 targets for 48 yards. He's been a fairly reliable possession receiver, doesn't need to create a lot of separation. You throw it up, he goes and get it for you. You've seen that throughout the year. Zay Jones was that steady underneath target that you like to see for the Jaguars. They've been using him a lot that way. Five targets, 5 catches, 40 yards. Nothing crazy, but again, getting the job done and being efficient. And one of the biggest things with this offensive performance you saw that I loved, Trevor Lawrence, 6 carries for 53 yards. He was getting the job done with his legs. He picked up a crucial 3rd and 8 early in the game or early in midway through the first half that led the Jaguars down on a scoring drive on that one. And then he also picked up a big 24-yarder later in the game. This was his career high in rushing for the Jaguars, 53 yards. So you look at Trevor Lawrence's numbers, he's over 280 yards, total yards on the day. Had a good day for the Jaguars. You really love to see him kind of putting it together, avoiding the big mistake, having a game that was winning football. He hadn't done that in a few weeks. And so for Trevor to come out and do that, you love it. You have that Devin Lloyd fumble recovery in the turnover sheet. You love that. Boye Oluokun was a tackling machine. You did still see Josh Jacobs out there, who is one of the hardest running backs in the league right now. He was breaking his fair share of tackles, right? But even with all the broken tackles from Josh Jacobs, he only averaged 3.9 yards a carry. And that's because the Jaguars were swarming to the football for a lot of this football game. You can make one guy miss, but can you make three miss? That was kind of the philosophy with them swarming to the football and doing a good job in that regard. I mentioned Davante Adams slowed down late in the game, but early on, 10 catches for 146 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was almost single-handedly beating the Jaguars, and then it was like he forgot how to catch the football. If you're somebody that covers the Raiders or a Raiders fan, I just couldn't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine because we've been there with the Jaguars a lot. But for Davante Adams to be one of the reasons you can't come up with a victory late in the game, pretty shocking stuff there. But again, the Raiders have been finding ways to lose. The Jaguars have been finding ways to lose. The Jaguars didn't do that this week. They didn't beat themselves with the dumb penalties or the over-aggressiveness play calling by Doug Peterson. They did what they needed to do to come out with a victory. I think if Doug had called games like this a couple more times earlier in the season, I think you could have had some victories that you missed out on. But it's good to see that Doug has kind of course corrected his play calling and decision making. And as this team continues to grow, maybe you can continue to get more aggressive. But you've got to find these little victories, and the Jaguars did that today. You saw Andre Sisco. He almost had a pick six. He gave up one of those touchdowns to Davante Adams earlier in the game. And, you know, Sisco has been a little up and down in his second year, and that's to be expected for most young players. I expected him to play at a little bit higher level than we have seen, more consistently than we have from Andre Sisco. But you saw the bad play against Davante. You also saw him almost house a pick six. He just couldn't quite hold on to it. I think he was a little surprised that it was such an easy potential pick six there, and he couldn't hold on to it. Like I said, I think the pass rush was held in check for the most part by the Raiders' offensive line. Again, DeJuan Smoot had a big day. Saw Josh Allen getting chipped some and doubled some. But the Jaguars' defense, after they went down 17-0, after they were just atrocious in the first quarter and part of the second quarter, they tightened up. They had a really great second half, not allowing points, not allowing the Raiders to get the job done at all. And you did see a couple injuries here for the Jaguars. Rayshon Jenkins was helped off the field. Was being evaluated for concussion symptoms. Travis Etienne looked like he was shaken up a little bit at a couple times in that game. We'll have to check the injury report and wait to hear if Doug has anything to say about that. But you hope Travis Etienne doesn't have to miss any time, because he really is. I mean, he's the heartbeat of this offense right now. He makes teams respect him, both as a outside runner. We know what he can do in space, but he's getting the job done in pretty much every category as a runner for the Jaguars right now. He's able to run between the tackles as well and get everything done for that football team. So you hope that Travis Etienne is healthy and isn't going to miss any time there. I think the Jaguars have honestly probably played a little bit better in some of their losses, but and those losses that they played a little bit better in, they made the mistakes late and weren't able to close out some of these games. Raiders, they have a really poor pass defense. You ended up seeing that manifest itself throughout this game. Their run defense is better than their pass defense, and I think you saw that throughout the game. They played hard-nosed. They played physical. They made Travis Etienne earn a lot. Again, he only averaged 3.9 yards a carry. His long was 18. But I liked seeing Doug continue to feed him, get him the ball close to the goal line, give him the ball in the short yardage situations, take the points on the field goals when you have them there late in the game that'll put you up 7 points. So overall, I'm just really impressed with how this win came, with Doug actually adjusting, not being overly aggressive when he didn't need to be in certain situations, playing to the strengths of this young football team. I'm excited. Obviously, it's a tough road ahead. You have to travel to Kansas City this next weekend and take on the Chiefs. We'll be out there for that one. But for now, just enjoy this win. The Jaguars got out of their own way in this game. Trevor Lawrence played how you want him to play. Travis Etienne did the same. Offensive line did the job. The defense held tough in the second half. Tyson Campbell had a really strong half in the second half after allowing a first half touchdown to Davante Adams. I think that this could be the type of game that really builds some momentum, but again, traveling to Kansas City can quickly put that momentum back in the bottle. But don't worry about that right now. 24-hour rule, right? Enjoy this. Enjoy this victory. Have a good rest of your Sunday. You're going to get to enjoy a victory Monday here in Duval. This is the type of stuff that you celebrate, right? Not a lot of wins in Jacksonville over the last several years. Enjoy this one. It was well deserved, and the Jaguars got out of their own way. Doug Peterson made the right decisions. Trevor Lawrence didn't turn the ball over. Travis Etienne didn't turn the ball over, and the defense didn't pick up any crucial penalties late in the game. So it was everything you wanted to see from the Jaguars in a big way. That is going to do it here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd like to remind you, follow me on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. You can also hit that notification bell. If you want, you can go check out genjag.com, get some new Duval gear. We've got our Duval throwback sweatshirt. It's up for pre-order through Tuesday. You can go check that out. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in, Duval. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Go Jags.